suck. Yo, it's the Really Kick It Podcast, episode 16. And as always, this is your host, Ones. And I got a very special guest today with me, my friend, the Haitian sensation, Shirley S. Paul Esquire. Hello, Shirley.
Hi, Ones. Thanks for having me. Shout out to the production crew that did a great job getting us set up. And again, we want to shout out one of the production guys, has his daughter on set as a Big Daddy's girl. Shout out Sanaya. She's doing her own thing now, you know, the young people in them. But she's here, though. But I'm so glad to be on with you and just kick it and see what we could talk about tonight.
Yeah, this was important for me because you're one of the people that I say you're a dope person. I tell you this a lot by ourselves when we just talking, but I think the people need to see you, and that's one of the things that this platform is. I'm building here, basically. I want to put the people that need to be seen in front of the people. I don't do a lot of nonsense. We're not talking about the nonsense. We're talking about progress. We're talking about what needs to be done. We're having conversations that need to be had. And with the life that you've had, man, it's just so dope to me. So I wanted to have this conversation so that the young girls could see it, even the young males could see it, because you've done a lot in this life. And I just wanted to bring you on and talk about some of those things. So with that said, let's start with your upgrowing. You from Brooklyn, right?
Come on, where else? But again, thanks. I'm like always, it's such a good feeling to, you do things, at least for me, I do things, and I believe that's just part of my purpose that God has me here doing, and to see that folks can get inspiration is awesome. So I agree with you. I definitely think we need to talk less of the BS and more of the real stuff and just empower and encourage people, because whatever I could do, somebody else could do. And they could just do what they're here to do, So, but you said where I'm from, so I grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised, real Brooklyn. Didn't move here like 8 months ago, but my parents are from Haiti, so yeah, I was living Brooklyn outside, but it was Haiti at home. So proud public school kid, I grew up in Crown Heights, went to public schools, high school, everything here, and I went to historically black college, HBCU, shout out Del State, the Hornets. I went there for college, did some more schooling. I am an admitted attorney licensed in the state of New York. So I've just been doing a little bit of everything. Some people think I'm a little crazy, but you've known me for a while, so you see, so I work hard, I like to have fun, and I'm just blessed to be here, and definitely have done a lot. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, whoa, all right, that happened. Yeah.
All right, but let's start with, how did you navigate? What was it like growing up in Brooklyn? You said you got Haitian roots in the house, and then it's the American culture. How did those both have an impact on you growing?
Well, a lot. So at home, like I said, was Haiti. So that means, talk Creole at home, do things. My parents are like amazing, warm people that, honestly, I see a lot of the work that I do today in a lot of the things that they instilled in me as a kid. So I was like, if my parents knew you when I was like 7 and you had an appointment, didn't speak English, they'd send me with you, like to translate, do whatever. And in hindsight, I'm like, that was really being an advocate for people, because people talk to people differently, not much less being black, but being black with an accent, looking different. So navigating those things, I had a little fun, like I'm together now, but I had fun. I did everything like that a New York City kid did, like went to school, played cards in the lunchroom, did a little thing like that. But I always came back to being focused about wanting to have some kind of impact. I didn't really understand what that meant. Part of it was just really not wanting to disappoint the people that love me, and through that, like I said, went to high school, met good people. I even worked as a peer educator when I was 14, 15. So all these little things are little things that are in my bucket that later on helped me. The things I'm doing today, I never thought about that. I always wanted to be a lawyer, though. Don't really know where that came from. Didn't really see that at home. My parents are just, my pops drove a taxi. My mom's did work that like an immigrant does, but they were big on like education.
Yeah.
So I think that was the driving factor. But like I said, Brooklyn girl, so have fun, party, did all of that. But when after a little while, I was like, all right, sis, you got to get your act together, like you want to have fun, that cost. And again, still wanting to do what my purpose is, so I think that's ever evolving also.
That was going to be one of my questions, but you already, like, you didn't know what you wanted to, you already knew you wanted to be a lawyer from young?
I did.
But where did it come from?
And it's so crazy. Like I said, it's not like I heard it at home or saw the example, but my parents held on to that.
Yeah.
Because to tell you the truth, I feel like I thought about different things. I thought about going to the military. I thought about doing a bunch of things, but they kind of held on to that. Mm-hmm. I went to law school later in life. I went to law school when I was about 28. Mm-hmm. So that's not too late, but it's not traditional, straight out of college. Yeah. So with that, I did things in between. I went to grad school because I wanted to make sure this was something I still really wanted to do, and it wasn't like people around me want me to do that. So through that, working... and I work in government now, and that's not something I even thought was like a career path. Like public service, I hear now is this thing. And for me, to be quite honest, like when I got to college, I just started learning about like the world, and I was like, oh, this is messed up. I can fix it, right? And we had our little meetings in our room, thought we was gonna change the world, and one day it was like, nah, sis, this how people kind of want it to be. I thought I was gonna take down the World Bank, the IMF. I'm like, no, and so just pivoting, right, as you learn different things about yourself, but not completely abandoning the course. So when I came back from college, I still had this like excitement, and I got involved in a political club like in my neighborhood, and through that meeting people, and fast forward, I've worked for like 2 governors and different people. I worked for the former mayor, shout out.
Hold on.
All right, we won't go there.
All that's more current. More current. We gonna get to all of that. So let me hold on. Let me get back because I got another question that I wanted to ask you. When you say I had all the fun that a Brooklyn girl would normally have, but I knew when it was time to lock in. When did you know it was time to lock in? And what were the sacrifices that got you where you needed to be? Because the whole time I known you, you've been doing very well.
But I was having fun. We
was having fun. But
I think with not telling too much about my age, but honestly, so like I said, I wanted to go to college, but I didn't go right away. Thought I was going to go into the military, and then 9/11 happened, and I was like, oh, you're not going to the military, you going to school, you doing something, you getting up out of here. And honestly, another thing is the fun that I was having. When I say that, I mean, I was going to parties, hanging out with my friends, nothing too crazy.
Yeah, the normal coming of age stuff.
But what I realized is those things were always still going to be there. Mm-hmm. And I needed to do something something different. And for me, going to a black college was, I didn't even understand all of that, but when I got there, it was just real. Mm-hmm. People that looked like me were like scholars and just important. Amazing, and that's important. And on Dell State's campus, there's parts of that Underground Railroad. They're just learning real stuff about like who we are as people, and really just focused on our history a lot more. So I think after that, so to your question, that was kind of the shift. What were the sacrifices? Just not doing things that were my priority at that time. So my priority at that time was hanging out with my friends, going out. Yeah, I had a job, but I like to do other things, and I just had to shift a little bit. Yeah. Didn't mean I didn't have to do those things, but I could buckle down because that scene is still there. And then I just fell in love with the things that I was learning, people I was meeting. I even did a couple study abroads when I was in college. And I was hyped. Brooklyn Shirley is like in Namibia and Angola and Greece. And these were things that, it even shifted the dynamic with my parents and I. Because, they was like treating me like I was a kid. And yes, I was a younger person, but the more responsibility I showed, the more room they gave me. So which is kind of around the time that we met, because we were hanging out, and then I started going to the club, to the political club. And again, never really having like, and there's nothing wrong with having points of saying, I want to join this so I could get this, this, and that. I went really for the love of, I want to learn, wait, these people look like me, they making these moves, I can make these moves too. I want to learn about it, I'm nosy. So through that, and just seeing like what can happen, you know, what you can do in different spaces. And relationships were important. You know, I'm here right now because of a relationship with you. And I think that's been like the big thing that I valued, my relationships, you know. So I know a lot of people in the political space now, and a lot of it started because if I knew you were running and I liked you, I'd be like, oh, I'll give you 4 hours. I'll knock on doors for you. I'll do things. Through that direct engagement, I forged relationships, which became very helpful in other spaces in my life. Like people I know now are running, you know, cities. They're citywide, statewide, and so just a mix of that. So when you say the sacrifice, it's really just focusing on the goal. That's it.
And that's remarkable for you, because that wasn't even your goal. So to see how,
that's true,
because a lot of things for you to do them consistently, you have to have some type of passion about them.
Yeah.
This don't even sound like it was your passion, and you got on the road and just, listen, this is what I'm doing now.
It worked, and I did well in these spaces, and I had fun. So for me, it wasn't hard. It wasn't like exhausting. Like, don't get me wrong, along the journey, you have your moments. Like when I was in law school, I thought it was never gonna end. And now I'm looking back, I've been out for more than a decade, you know? So it's staying the course, being open, being flexible, you know? Because there's things that I thought I wanted, didn't get those. The no's have probably been some of the best things that have happened to me, because they created avenues for other things, but you can't get discouraged along the way, right? Because, you know, no's are hard sometimes.
Because they're all going to be discouraging moments in everything you do.
Totally.
But you can't stop, and that's kind of like what I'm hearing in what you're saying. Like you just kept going.
Yeah, because it's hot. Like, and it still happens along the way, you know, in different areas of your life. So it's not like you'll get to this juncture and that's it, and there won't be disappointments or moments where you have to pivot. But for me, that's what's fun about it, right? If you even think about like the things that we used to do, the way that we used to dress, what used to be the style, things have to change.
They evolve.
And sometimes things that are more substantive stay, right? Yeah. So those are the gems you pick up along the way, what works, what doesn't work, you know? So you just gotta be ready to keep it moving, and that's just been me.
Let me get a list of all the jobs you've had over your life.
Oh, that's, you know what?
I want to hear how diverse that list is.
So my first job, I was a babysitter in my building. I used to babysit, and you know what? The little baby that I used to babysit that I met when she was 4 months, she's in law school now. And like I kick it with her every now and then, you know. You
think that's representation? Because she's seen it?
Heck yeah. And learned a lot from them, because it's a Trini and Jamaican Rastafarian family, so that was a totally different exposure for me too.
Yeah, it's a lot going on culturally.
Yeah. So that was my first job. My second job, I was a peer educator at a place called Theo, Teens Helping Each Other at SUNY Downstate. That job was so cool. So that job was so cute. Like, you know, we would talk about issues that were important to people, whether it was from STDs, gang violence, all kinds of things, and we would present it in different ways, theatrical skits, different things, and we traveled with them, you know, so that was exposure. Then when I was in college, I worked for Biden. Biden was the senator, the U.S. senator from Delaware at the time. I worked for Biden. So
that's where the politics started, right?
Probably,
In
yeah,
the air,
probably
right.
that was the bug. Cause I was like, I could do this.
I've been doing my reading. I've been.
So then when I came home, when I'd come home on summer breaks, I worked for an assembly member who really like took a liking to me and kind of showed me a lot too. So I worked for him during the summers, came back after I graduated from college, my first like real job where I had a little salary. Oh, I was hyped.
Money.
I worked in the courts as a secretary to a judge. So that was like my first real professional job.
Downtown?
Downtown. I started in 360 Adams. Then I went over to 320 J Street. I spent 5 years at 320 J Street. Then I left altogether.
Supreme, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
both of them
alright.
was Supreme. So 360, that's where people fight for money. 320 is where people fight for their lives. So it's like, it's a different bucket of people. Like,
Yeah.
and I worked for the Brooklyn Treatment Court for some time, which was really good to see. That's an alternative to incarceration for people with substance abuse problems. Because sometimes people aren't criminals, but they're doing stuff to feed their habits.
Yeah.
So it was my first exposure as seeing government really work to help people versus like,
What you just
I'm not
knew
saying they
growing
don't.
up, saying
Right,
they
right.
left us to our own devices.
Right, and I
no.
saw that, and that was real. So I really enjoyed that, worked with a good group of people, left that job to go to law school full time. And then when I got out of law school, the court started this like junior law clerk program, the equivalent to like a federal clerkship. So I did that for a bit. And the same guy that I worked for in the summers, coming home from college, I went to a funeral for, this is what I'm telling you, always got to be ready, right? Always got to look good, be ready. Because it helps, you know? I went to a funeral and he's like, hey kid, what you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just here. And he's like, come with me. I'm going to a fundraiser for who might be our next Speaker of the House, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. And the former governor was throwing that fundraiser. So for me, the politics is like another scene. So I was like, word, I'm going. Right? So I'm spicy. I'm like, okay. And I'm a respectful person, but these are just people too. So I'm me.
Yeah,
I'm Haitian.
Yeah.
So through that, ended up like not too long later working for the former governor. And so that was my job there. Left that job to work for, Hochul was the lieutenant governor, worked on her campaign. And after that, I went to work for SUNY. So you know how we have Downstate Hospital, Hofstra, the colleges, all of that. I worked for SUNY Systems because the Democrats had won the majority and it flipped. And someone who was the chairman at SUNY, again, relationships. This guy would call me. I would, like, if he needed something, I would take care of it. I was always efficient, you know? So people found me to be reliable. And I joined SUNY Systems and worked there for a little bit, and then came out, ran for office. And during that time, the kid ain't have no money, so that's where the law degree I was doing. And it was the pandemic, so people were either buying homes or selling homes. So and planning for when they're not here, estate planning. So I did a lot of that, kept me going. I didn't win the election, but I'm grateful for that. Another no that didn't. And people
I want to talk about that. I definitely want to
Yeah.
talk about it. But why are you grateful that it didn't happen? That you didn't
Because
win?
I just think I worked really hard, and I just think the only, like, politics is politics. There's a lot of things in there. I learned a lot. My people that cared about me got to be a part of that. For me, it just was like, I know it wasn't my effort that stopped me from winning. So I was good with that. And I knew from the beginning when I decided to run, I was like, it's only two things that's going to happen. You're either going to win or you're not. And, it didn't work out. So I felt like, all right, that's not what God has for me now. I'm good. And then a couple months later, Hochul becomes governor. And you know, she took a girl with her.
Mm-hmm. You was working with the big dogs.
So then that was my job. Wow, I'm really going through the jobs. So I was there for about 3.5 years. And then last year I left to go work for Adams for a bit. And now I'm back with Hoko. I'm back with Hoko. So I think that is, I think that's the jobs.
All right. Now let's talk about your race. What made you, first of all, what were you running for and what made you want to run? And what did you think you could change in that position?
So in 2021, I ran for New York City Council District 46. So that's like Canarsie, Mill Basin, South Brooklyn area, Marine Park, a few of those neighborhoods. I believe that I had a good set of skills and understanding of government that I could really represent my community well. Mm-hmm. At that time, there had never been, in a community that's like more than 50% black people, had never been represented by a black person, never been represented by a woman. Now, the community had changed over the years, but it had changed for quite some time before that was reflected in who holds the seat now. And I just thought I could do a good job. I thought that people deserved quality representation. Mm-hmm. I thought also my relationships across different government spaces would help me be able to deliver really well for the community. And so that was it.
That was I found out about it late. When you told me about it, I'd have been knocking on doors. I'd have been like Jehovah's Witness out there, man.
And pressuring
like, yo, my homegirl said...
Yeah. So it was
you know
good. I met like amazing people on the race. It's since stopped, but before, like, I'd be out like in the neighborhood and people be like, "Oh, I voted for you," So that's always cool.
That's a good feeling, ain't it?
And just knowing, like, I'm like, wow, Shirley from Montgomery Street ran for office. That's like lit. So I'm proud of that, So that's how I got there.
That's dope, man. That's dope.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about when you started working for Biden, that office, politics. What did you?
Well, that was different.
What did you see that made you keep going in the political space though? Like,
I was much younger, so like I said, I was in college, and it was like 3 days a week. I didn't really. He would travel to Washington, D.C. I worked out of the Wilmington, Delaware office. Mm-hmm. So that's mainly like some constituent services, people that are coming directly, calling, worked on like policy papers in support of things that he was trying to advance. So that exposure was very different than a lot of my other government roles. Mm-hmm. So, but it was good enough that it kept me excited about wanting to do more, and that's why I came home. Yeah,
that's what I was like. Yeah. What did you see in that made you like, yo, I'm good?
I just saw that people could really, if people move together, they could really make change.
Fact.
I think people kind of have bought into an illusion that there cannot be change. But if you think about it, there are things that people don't like now. At some point, they either were never like that, it was the opposite, or it just never was even there.
For real.
So somebody created that. So again, change is a good thing, but it takes work. It takes commitment. It takes unity. And I think that, sometimes that's not always there for people for the long haul. But so through that, I saw that there's things that you could, there's low-hanging fruit that you could get immediately. Other things you're kind of chipping away. And why not make your mark and be part of that? You might not see it.
And with that chipping away, you could start a fight that somebody else might take on later.
Exactly. You might not see it. And if you think about it, right, there are, like, just our ability to come in here and pull up and be free and comfortable to just talk, right? At some point, that wasn't it. There are people that even the things that I've been able to do, thank God, are like things that people dreamed about doing or fought for people to do, knowing that they wouldn't be the ones to benefit.
Your life is a dream.
Knowing,
to the,
you know what I
to
mean?
the slaves that ran away from master all them years ago. They can't believe you exist.
Right. And part of their effort wasn't, I want to believe that it's not always about that person being saved in that space. It's what else is there to come. Because you could be selfish and be okay with just you being good, you know, but when you put in that work or just start that, somebody else can take that mantle and just create a better future. Like, look at our lives now. So, I wholeheartedly believe in change. Wholeheartedly.
That's I'm smiling over here. You know why it's weird? Because like I said, I always tell you dope and things of that nature, and I want to join the party. But just sitting here, and I'm learning too.
Yeah.
Because these are things we don't talk about these things.
We don't. And normally I'm talking really crazy. Because I'm pretty funny, guys.
This is what I'm saying. Our friendship is about, I want to say almost 20, something like that.
Probably. Could be just about.
Almost 20
Because if I was
years.
out of college, damn, you still trying to put my...
I'm
kidding.
But I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
But it's true. And I think sometimes, you know, I'm in a different space now where also I know that talking about things that I'm doing is really around the right people, is encouraging my friends and my family. And it's not like... Because I think sometimes we shut in on things that we're doing because, you know, we feel like, oh, is that...
They don't want to hear that,
or does that make me feel like I'm showing off? I'm doing
flexing
something.
Nah.
But around the right people, it's not.
Not at all. Even if I ain't got nothing going on, because everybody got 24 hours. I know what I'm not doing with my 24 hours when I see what you're doing with your 24 hours.
Right.
So if you always busy and I'm just at home laying on the bed, it can't be no way I'm hating on you because I'm not putting in the work to get what you have.
Right. That sounds logical, but that's not the reality. That's not the reality. The person that's laying in the bed right now is mad that your podcast numbers are growing.
Come on,
and
man.
They're not doing
and they
anything,
growing.
right?
They growing.
And they're about to get crazy after this.
I got the subscribers. I got the topics and the subscribers.
So I think that's just, you know, sadly, that's just what it is.
All right. With that said, what do you think? Now, like I told you, Nisi Poo, she off in college. Her dad is a very proud dad. Her whole life, I've seen her, like when she was a child, we was at the crib hanging out, right? And she came downstairs and she was watching A Different World by herself, like nobody forcing her to make this decision to watch this show on her own as a kid. So now that she's in college, it just goes that much further into the belief that representation matters.
Of course it does.
If you can see it, you could achieve it. And I think because her mind state was already there, she was destined to go to college because she's seen it.
Right.
When I try to platform people, when I'm thinking about people that need to come up here, it's people with stories that are inspirational. Your story is inspirational. We didn't have to talk about it, you being downtrodden and everything being hard for you to want to overcome and succeed. Yeah. You were just like, yo, you know what? I want to please the people who love me because they love me.
Right.
Like, I can understand, like, in a lot of immigrant stories, you don't want to let your parents down because you understand their circumstances, how limited they were. So when you came and you saying you wanted to do it for the people who loved you, I understand that, and that resonated powerfully because a lot of people are dealing with that same thing.
Right, and that's a real thing. Like, sometimes when I think about it, you know, that's a bold thing, people who leave everything that they know. And especially like with my parents, they were speaking a completely different language, right? So they already have the language barrier. And just on the hope of, we want to create a different situation for these kids. I'm the youngest of four. And I think that is real. Like, I don't know a lot of people who would pick up now and go somewhere because a lot of people also, when they come here, they've left, like, they might have a good career and good things going where they are, but here you got to kind of start over, you know? But again, having that faith that work is worth it. And, you know, I think that's powerful. And look, along the way, it's not as much as I wanted these things got hard too, you know? Things got hard, whether they were like, your scholarship is like, all right, I'm not going to do my undergrad like that. They were good to me. But, you know, at some points, certain things fumbled, and I was just like, I'm not leaving. So my stuff was in my car. I would go to my homegirl's room, my original roommate. She let me crash there. So doing the things I needed to do to just like get by and not give up on that. So I just, I think sometimes when we sit and we talk about things, people just see where you are now and didn't see like
the grind.
Crazy hours in the library. I didn't even know I could be that focused like when I was in law school. It was crazy.
And that's what I was talking about, sacrifice. You answered it your way, and that was professionally done. But when I was talking about sacrifice, I'm like, you had to put in hours.
Crazy.
Hours
and
to become what you are now.
And in addition to just the workload, right? Traditionally, attorneys are, and especially like in this country, they are more, there's more white attorneys than black, right? So I'm in a class, my first year, my section, we moved in sections. So it was 132 of us in that class. 7 of us were black. And
That's
out of the
crazy.
7, 2 were black men and 5 were black women. And just that, and then coupled with the fact like I had, and nothing against them, but I had like my counterparts where everyone in their family, like every man in their family was a lawyer. So they're already coming in with a different exposure because the conversations around the dinner table
It's
are different.
almost educational nepotism.
It's different. It's the same way that like my children, my family will be different and should be better because of what I
Than
can.
the last generation.
Right, So you have all of that, and law school was just a strange place because it wasn't about how smart you were anymore. Like, all right, you here, you smart, but it was just a different work ethic. It was just different. Like you had one exam, and your one exam was it. Like you had a bad day, you're done. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and like I said, I'm thankful that I've been able to move around the way that I have, and it's just like who I am. But these spaces are not easy for us either, because you'll be in spaces, you're working. You got all of this, and like your supervisor's just like, he's here because he got this job. Because again, relationships are good. Just as I want to benefit from them, I got to understand what
the
other
people benefit.
But
yeah,
we don't get a lot of chances in these spaces, So we have to navigate differently. We just have to do things. But again, like if this is what you want, you got to show up for it. Again, I'm not saying you could be the best and it could still be hard for you, but you just got to be prepared for that. That's why it's important to have relationships with other people in the space to understand, like to be like, I know I'm not crazy. Like, we're in this meeting.
You see this,
and they
right?
asked for a solution and I gave it.
Yeah.
And like 3 minutes later, somebody else said it and now
And they
everybody
hear
heard
it.
it. How? What happened? So it's being able to figure out, pivoting how to navigate around that, right? Because you can't fight everybody there, So it's just, it's just life. And sometimes it ain't easy, and you got to be okay with that.
you got to be okay with that. You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
How was it working for Governor Hochul when she became like governor?
Oh, wow. That was, so I think like the first 9 days, we had like a subway flooding, a tornado, mad stuff happened, and it was just crazy. But one thing, like Governor Hochul has really, so she was a lieutenant governor for 7 years.
Yeah.
So she was showing up, but people just didn't really know her.
She didn't have the same profile, yeah.
Correct. So so she was ready to hit the ground running. And like I said, the first few weeks, it was just us. And we were dealing, like I remember we went to MTA headquarters at like 4:30 in the morning because something broke out. And at first, those things are cool. You're on the news. People are like, yo, H, I saw you. And you're like, whoa. So it was fun. And I'm grateful that she chose to bring me along. So I got to be in a little bit of everything. And that's kind of my style, because if I see this falling apart, I'm not just going to be like, oh, this is my job over here. And I think she's a good person, and she's really committed to the work. She just has a different background. So for me, that was already inspiring. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. Oh, and I'm making moves. So, so it was just crazy. It really was. But it was good. And I think a lot of things that I did along the way just kind of helped. So sometimes people want to be like come in and just be at the top tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if that happens for you, great.
Great.
But your ability to stay at the top, your longevity is from what you've been doing.
Based on your
to
actions,
be able to
yeah.
be like, yeah, I could get a briefing and know what I'm supposed to say, but what if somebody asks me something I didn't expect? What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I even think a lot of like my legal training was helpful.
Yeah.
And being able to pivot, think quick on my feet. And just being flexible. Like I said, you know, I'm always about the give and take. You're not always going to get everything, and you got to be okay with that too.
Mm-hmm.
So back to your question, it was crazy, amazing, and like crazy at the same time. But it's been good, and like I said, I'm back with her now.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to help New Yorkers. Like real
Being
stuff.
from New York and that you get to work
You
here in
get
that
to do-
capacity is so fire to me.
You get to do that, and the biggest thing is, okay, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm from Brooklyn. I thought upstate was like Albany,
Yeah.
and that's it. When you work for the state, like I never knew anything about a North Country, Onondaga County, Waterville, all these places. Oneida,
yeah.
there's 60. I can't probably say all 62, but I'm pretty close. But there's all these counties, all these people in the city and state that I love. So just being able to help New Yorkers, things that people benefited from, being part of that policy, working hard and knowing that people in your town, people that look like you, have a better chance now because of this work that you guys put in. And then what's been even more fascinating is just like all this work be getting done. And if you don't know anything about it, you just don't know about it. Like people are making huge decisions on everything you do every day.
And we ain't even think about it.
And sometimes I get it, not everybody's gonna get to be in these spaces, but it's why I engage everybody. You know how I feel about civic engagement, voting, participating, and sometimes people be like, oh, I don't want to be bothered with the politics. But I'm like, everything
It governs
you do,
everything
your
in your
bus
life.
showing up, who gets what, where, when, and how, somebody's
Can't turn the
deciding
blind
that.
out of that
You
at
know,
all.
changes that you've seen, somebody decided that. Somebody put the kibosh on that. Somebody said, let's do this. Let's focus here and there. You got like universal child care stuff coming in, different things moving. You got people helping with deed, that just so many things that are just, so that the dorky part of me, it's like fascinating, right?
That's it.
Because I like to, because it's how I help people.
No, it's
People call
dope
me
though.
all the
Everything
time.
that you talking about is dope because
Yeah.
that's what I preach on here: the solidarity, the knowing politics, because politics governs your life. Like
Right.
these are all things that I've touched on in different episodes of this podcast. So I'm just like taking it in because it coincides with the message that I'm trying to get out there. It's
Right.
real.
Right.
From Governor Hochul, right?
I know it's coming.
From Governor Hochul. This is something we talk about a lot. We've talked about. We don't talk about it as much now that he's gone. But your time with Mayor Adams, you told me about a lot that I didn't know about. And I could be honest in saying that. I felt how I felt about him. But you would say, no, we got this done and we got... What are some of the things that you were happy that got accomplished while you were with Adams?
Oh, wow. They did a lot. Like, Axe the Tax. They've done things. The Universal Child Care pilots started with them. They put money into libraries, different things. They eliminated, like, help eliminate people's medical debt so that doesn't hit, like, their credit report. So things that really matter in this. I don't want to talk about all their policy things because I'm not, like, promoting anyone on this, but I joined him also in the last year. So I went last year and ran their city legislative affairs shop. So basically all the laws that passed within like the 11 months that I was there, I worked directly with the city council to amend them, sometimes support them, sometimes not, to just help us in support of his policy initiatives. they were huge. They've built or committed to building so much affordable housing. Like a lot of the things that you will see over the next few years are things that
Started in his administration.
Started there. What did everybody thought I was crazy. You thought I was crazy too. For me, again, back to public service, it's about the work, right?
Yeah. What can you get done versus the person?
Well, for me, I also have to believe in the mission, right? I'm just not there to cash a check, because for me, with all the work that I've done now, I have people who, if I show up with you, I'm validating you. I'm validating this policy initiative, this legislation, or all of this. So I'm always mindful of who and where I do work, because that's going to be connected to me. So joining them, it was just a good time in my life where I was able to be a little more local. Working for the governor, I spent a lot of time like in Albany and Buffalo, just in DC. So for me, it was good. A few things, honestly. It was really nice to work with a lot of Black people.
Yeah.
It was really dope, But like I said, I came in at a different time, and I think at the same time, regardless of what's happening, 8.5 million New Yorkers still depended on what the city was doing, how they supported their agencies, what kind of laws they were passing. And I think that's important to have good stewards in those spaces. So I saw that as like another place for me. At that point, I didn't really know much about the city's legislative process, their budget process. I got to be a part of all of that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that just added more to my bucket of things that I know, understand, relationships that I've built, and now being back in the state, those are people that I can rely on, still work with. So it just expanded my knowledge base and things like that.
That's
but it was
dope.
fun. City Hall is a very fun place. It's very different.
What are we calling fun? It don't look fun.
You know me. By fun, I mean like the
There's
best
always
thing
something
is,
going on. You like is something always going
well,
on?
that's good and bad. The thing is, because you're in the city and all the agencies are there, it's different than when I worked in the state. Because I could work in the state, we have an issue, we can have an issue in Buffalo, in Syracuse, and Rochester. So it's a little more, it can be centralized and set apart. Versus in City Hall, everything is coming at you 24/7. And then you also have a city council that has a very different legislative process. I'll just give you a quick example. In the state, the two houses vote and pass a bill. The governor has until the end of that year to either sign the bill or veto the bill,
it.
or something they call like a pocket veto. That means she doesn't do anything to
And
she
after
doesn't do
time,
anything,
it just
it
goes-
automatically
yeah.
vetoes itself, right? So within that year, you can keep working on the bill. You can change the language. You can put chapters in. You can do different things like that.
Like amendments.
So that gives you a chance to really get to the best product that you can get to, and then the final say again sits with the governor, right? And during that time, you can, if you're in support of it or against it, you do your efforts to help kill the bill or pass the bill. On the city side, the city council advances a bill. They do all of their language and amending on the front end before they vote for the bill. Right? So they introduce the bill, they have hearings, and then we work on the bill's age. They come back to a meeting, they vote on the bill. Once they vote on that bill, the mayor has 30 days to either sign or veto the bill. However, the city council also, their bills automatically lapse into law in 30 days. So if
You said lapse into law?
So they pass a bill tonight. Today's the 8th?
Ninth.
The 9th. Within 30 days from today, which would be like April 8th, there's a 31 in this month, so April 8th, I believe, the bill would automatically become law. So that's a brutal process. And part of it is because the council people, like, they have a very short shelf life. They're there for 2 terms, 4-year terms. In a census thing, they get 10 years. But either way, they're more in and out. So that's a very different ledge process where you get a year to sit back, to work on things, to learn more things about how good this can be, what are the issues, what can we tweak. So so for me, that was, again, dorky side. That was fascinating, right? Because I'm like, this is savage. This is crazy, you know? But I liked it. I like spicy stuff. You tell me, you know, when I was going to the mayor's office, people was like, Cheryl, it's on fire over there. I was like, that's the best time to go, right? Because then
it was handing out indictments over there.
Right? Yeah, but I knew.
You stay away from the trap house when they're handing out indictments.
I knew I didn't have any of those issues, but again, I knew there needed to be good stewards, and there were, that was still doing the work.
Yeah.
Because 8.5 million New York City residents
was benefiting from the work that was
depending
being done
on that, you know? So for me, it was cool. So that's why I say it was fun. It was busy. It was always something, you know.
Always something.
Yeah, well, positive things too. But we're going to pocket this because, you know.
Listen. All right.
I'm rooting for everybody black.
Listen,
Dr. Umar.
we coming close to the end of the conversation because we're coming close to where we at currently, and this story is still being wrote. But let's talk about you being back with Governor Hochul.
Yeah.
I know you loved the first tenure with her.
Yeah.
And now you're back with her. How you feeling this time?
I'm excited. I mean, again, now it's 22 million New York State residents that are relying on the things that we do. And, you know, this is a big year, not just like for her, but down the ballot. Like I said, Congressman Jeffries can make history this year. There's just a lot changing, and I think it's a great time to be in government. You know, we're seeing a shift of new ideas, how to get there, new
some younger
leaders,
people
younger
coming
people. So it's an exciting time. You know, so I see it as, like, right now, that's still just where I'm going to continue to serve. Sometimes I wonder what's really, like, next. The beautiful thing is, you know, learning government and all this, I could take that into the private sector and support and engage government in a different way. We see tons of private partnerships happening around the city and state. That's how we get a lot of things done. So being back is just, it's exciting. I'm going to be in a space learning something really new. But, you know, when you're good at stuff, people always going to keep you to do certain things too. So I do appreciate that. So we're going to have some fun. And yeah, you know, I'm always about fun. Because I'm telling you guys, like, working and doing certain things. And again, that doesn't mean, hey, she doesn't get like, oh, they're wildin'. But, you know, what a beautiful place to be in and be in these rooms that we weren't in. And
conversations we wasn't privy to at all.
Like, it's like when I used to go to court. When I'd see a black person, I'd be like, and they'd be like, guys, just relax. But, you know, I'm looking, so I show up, Brooklyn ready, looking good. You know, that'd be part of the job. I'd be like, what am I wearing tomorrow? But, yeah, so I'm ready so I'm excited to see what else we got. They're in their budget. We're in the budget season now, so a lot of new things are going to be coming out, spending some money, seeing where we're going to put that. And, you know, help make New Yorkers' lives better. I sound like a government ad.
No, that's dope, for real. Well, with all that, now I done listened to your upbringing, the jobs you had. I heard it all. Where do you see yourself going with all this information that you compiled over this journey that's been your life? What's the end goal? Where you want to be? What do you want to do? Things that's still on your bucket list. What do you want to complete?
What's still on my bucket list? Some things that I want to do. Well, I want to keep gaining more knowledge, and I think at some point maybe cross over into the private sector to just have a little more balance of quality of life.
Yeah.
You know, working.
Manyan?
You said what?
That manyan.
Yeah. Look, part of the skill set, mentoring, I have a lot of mentees, helping them get into spaces, helping my other colleagues and friends, and that's why I keep harping on relationships, because I can make calls. Like, I always tell people, if I don't know it, if I can't figure it out, I know somebody
who can.
So having people in different spaces is good. I'm going to be doing a little more regulatory work in my new role, in this new role. So that's exciting. And again, I'm hoping to take that to the private sector and help them properly interact with government, because I think the thing with government too is it moves a little slowly, and people on the private side don't really get that. So just finding that balance there, taking things easy, staying healthy, you know, and just like wherever God leads me. I'm open to things, but sometimes you get pushed into spaces, right? Because I thought
It sounds like you successfully go with the flow.
I do, but that's all on my faith.
For
People
real.
think I'm crazy, but that's just, you know, and sometimes I've been big on, you know, sometimes I've made a when you talked about the sacrifices, like I've taken a pay cut here, because I also believe in getting paid to learn. So sometimes you might take a little pay cut here, but what you're getting in this space, when you go out, you're doubling that. You're doing more. So I hope to cash in one of these days. And just live life, help other people, especially people that look like me, not just to navigate the space, but to know that they belong in the space too. And that, you know, the space is not a space without them.
That's dope, man.
So that's where I am, and, you know, gonna come back and kick it with you. We're
Fact.
gonna, you know,
Fact.
And see what we got going on.
In closing, right? Because I don't want to keep you too long. I know you got things to do, but
No, I'm free. No, I'm kidding.
if you could say anything to younger Shirley, what would it be?
Oh, wow. You asking some, like, really, maybe I should have.
I told you, man. I've been waiting to get you in front of the microphone so we can have these conversations.
Younger Shirley, like, be patient with yourself, and know that you're not in these spaces by chance.
No
Right?
DEI.
No
DEI. We
you're
work
not-
for
yes,
everything.
You worked. You're just as equipped, and if not more than any
You
and
ain't gotta say
everybody
it.
to be in this space. So I think that little, like, boost of confidence, and I think that's for everyone, you know, when you show up. Because for me, showing up, and I'm the only, I don't want to be the only black person there, but I don't hide that.
It's a power in it.
It's a power, and I show up black. Braids, my little curls. Oh, I show up
The
black.
froze sometimes. Yeah.
Show up black, but you know I like being cute, so we gotta be out there. But you know, just keep showing up. Really,
That's
maybe I
dope,
would have
man.
started exercising a little
That's
sooner.
dope.
But yeah, that's it.
I want to tell little Shirley, it's gonna be all right, man. You did good.
It's gonna be all
You
right,
did
right?
good.
I did. Yeah.
And with that said, you got anything else you want to say? Social media, anything you want to
No,
say?
I just want to thank you for having me on. Keep checking out my boy. This is episode 16. So when I come back for episode 96, the numbers are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Just stay encouraged. Look out for each other. And above all, give each other some grace and give yourself some grace.
There we go.
That's it. Yeah.
And with that said, this has been a Really Kick It Podcast, episode 16. And as always, peace and love. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.